Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 84 of Crunch Time. I'm going to be your host for today's episode. I am Tanner Dislin, and I am joined, as always, by my duo, by my guy, Sam. How are we doing today, my friend?
Doing good, man. Can't complain. We got some hockey on, some basketball. March Madness just around the corner. The best time of the year, man.
Absolutely. And yes, that is a perk of our new setup where A, we're in our comfier chairs, quite nice, but B, we are in front of the TVs. So we always say how some of our best episodes are when we're watching sports and reacting, and specifically me reacting to the Rangers. Well, the Rangers are on tonight. So hopefully we'll get some good moments, but more on the Rangers to come because they may or may not have made a big move. Anyway, as you said, Sam, we are finally in March. We are recording this on Wednesday. We are officially in March. The clock has turned into the best basketball month of the year. We are right on the doorstep of March Madness. But before that, we also have our conference championships,
Yeah, man.
or conference tournaments, I should say.
Yeah.
But we're going to put a pin kind of a little bit in the college basketball talk next week to prepare you for those conference tournaments and March Madness. We will have a college basketball episode, but not quite yet. We were not able to get an episode out last weekend. We had some difficult work schedules, and plus, there just, to be honest with you, there wasn't a lot going on in the sports world with football over and basketball kind of in a weird spot last week, the calm before the storm. We didn't feel like we needed to put out an episode, but we are back this week, and then certainly again next week with that college basketball episode I said. But we're going to start here with winners and losers like we usually do. Sam, who's your winner?
Yeah, man. Big weekend for my winner as a whole, and as the University of Iowa just had one of the craziest weekends of all time. I kicked off Saturday. If you haven't heard about it, I don't know how you haven't, but Iowa had one hell of a game against Michigan State, ending up winning 112 to 106. The Hawks scored 23 points over the final 90 seconds, fueled by 6 3-pointers to force an overtime with a 101 to 101 tie at the end of regulation. And then it was all the Hawkeyes from there, outscoring the Spartans 11-5 in the extra period.
So hit me with that one more time. How many points was that in the final?
23 points in the final 90 seconds.
I'm just checking, and the last game Iowa had played on the road before coming home was against Northwestern. They scored 26 points in the first half against Northwestern. 26 in the first half, and then they turned around and scored 23 in the final 90 seconds of this game. If that's not the biggest microcosm of this basketball season for Iowa, at times look like they literally could compete for a Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
The way they score, let's call it what it is, the way they score the basketball, right? They certainly aren't going to impress anybody with their defense, but the way they score, sometimes they can play with anybody. And then you have these times where they look like they would lose to, I don't know, Eastern Illinois. But yeah, it's a crazy inconsistent year for Iowa, but that's just a perfect way to put it. 23 and 1/2, or sorry, 26 and 1/2 versus 23 and 90 seconds.
Yeah. And then obviously we had the infamous Fran McCaffrey stare down with the ref late in the game. Fran McCaffrey, for those of you who don't know, is known for his temper tantrums. Let's put it how it is. And he kind of took a different approach this game. He just stared my man down for a solid 15 to 30 seconds instead of coaching his team, and it was electric.
Yeah, it was during a timeout. He just disregarded the whole, what usually timeouts are used for, and he went right up to the ref and just daggers.
It was intense.
It was intense,
Dude,
man. And
that's when the game switched.
I tell you what, though, I do think it is. We need to commend that ref for how he handled that situation. I mean, I think it was great how he took a few steps in and
Yeah.
he even matched the eye contact and the
It was
intensity and was like
awesome.
you want to do this? Let's do this. But there wasn't any escalation. There wasn't any anything verbal like, hey, what do you do? What are you looking at? Like
Yeah.
nothing like that. He was like, all right, you want to stare? Let's stare. And he stepped up and did the same. And yeah, I mean, it was first off, it led to an all-time moment,
Yeah.
in an all-time Twitter-worthy moment, an
Yeah.
all-time ended up leading to an all-time comeback.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that's how the Hawkeyes weekend kicked off. Then we go on the ball field where I was taking on number 1 LSU in baseball, and they just absolutely smack them 12-4 on 16 hits, and LSU had 4. I mean, they had 3 runs in the first inning, 3 runs in the fourth inning, and then 4 runs in the eighth, and then third and ninth they had 1 run each in those innings. So an absolute smackdown to a team year in and year out in the college baseball realm is the top team.
Yeah, they were number 1 in the country, and when you can come in and, I mean, you can triple their runs and quadruple their hits,
Yeah.
that's about as dominant as it gets, right? And of course, we got to shout out the Iowa pitcher for that game. He's kind of turning heads nationally. A lot of baseball accounts that I follow that kind of dabble into the college baseball side of things are starting to tweet about Brody Brecht is the pitcher we are talking about. Now, you may have watched him on the football field this last season as he's a wide receiver for Iowa. And I promise you, if I had it my way, he would hang up the helmet for good and grab the leather because as bad as he is as a wide receiver, he's that good as a pitcher. He does need to work on a little bit of control, but he throws absolute gas. He can get it up to, I think, against LSU, he got it up to 101 in a strikeout. So he's looking as good as ever as a pitcher. And I mean, Iowa taking down number 1 LSU.
Yeah. So
Sorry, dominating LSU.
so that happens to go on Sunday to beat K-State, another solid opponent, 6-5. So that wraps it up for the Iowa baseball for the weekend. Then Sunday, Iowa women's plays number 2 Indiana 86-85, and it comes down to a final possession, and guess who hits a fadeaway 3 for the game winner? None other than the greatest women's basketball of all time, Caitlin frickin' Clark.
She's I don't know what is it. She's her. She's
She's
her.
her. She's her.
I don't know what else to say about her. I mean, what were her stats in the game?
God.
I
Let
mean,
me let me look. Let me look.
yeah, we're pulling that up now, but she's damn near averaging a triple double.
34 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. So yeah, near triple double, shooting 54.5% from the field.
She does everything on the court. She rebounds, assists, and scores. She's efficient. Oh, and she's leading now the number 6 or 7
Yeah.
team in the she's leading a top 10 team in the country. She does it all on the floor. Oh, and she's clutch, hitting a game winner against
Yeah.
the number 2 team in the nation. That's a
Yeah.
revenge game for Iowa, as that this was a close game when it was over at Assembly Hall in Bloomington, and
Yeah.
I think Indiana was able to take that game. But did you see the atmosphere in Iowa
Yeah.
City this
It's
weekend for
electric.
College Game Day?
It's electric.
That is the Caitlin Clark effect. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's the Caitlin Clark effect right there. I mean, doing insane things for women's basketball
Yeah.
right now, and insane things just on the court.
Basketball.
Yeah,
Just basketball in
because
general.
she's really freaking good at it.
Yeah. So Caitlin Clark getting buckets as she always does. And then the icing on the cake came Monday.
But wait, there's more.
Iowa beats down number 15 Indiana 90-68, highlighted by Chris Murray, 26 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. Philip Bracha, 16 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. And then homecoming for Tony Perkins, 23 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. and then Peyton Sanford finally kind of finding his stroke as the season ends, 16 points and 3 rebounds. Just an absolute beatdown by Iowa, hitting their stride at the right moment.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to talk about this Iowa basketball team for a minute because who would have thought that the Fran stare, no more Franuary fade, no. Now this is the Franuary stare, where the season literally turned around,
Yeah.
completely turned around. If you would have told me like after the Northwestern game on the road again, where they scored 26 points in the first half,
Yeah.
or with 5 minutes to go in the Michigan State game, yeah, you're going to win this game and then you're going to go to Assembly Hall,
Yeah.
beat the living tar out of Indiana. Oh, by the way, and Indiana's going to go on to beat Purdue
Uh-huh.
at Mackey in West Lafayette
Yeah.
to sweep that series. So they're going to come off against Purdue, then you're going to beat the living crap
Yeah.
out of them in Bloomington.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable just how hot and cold this Iowa team is. And a name you mentioned that I truly believe is the catalyst for this team. I mean, Chris Murray's the best player. We know that.
Yeah.
And they need him to live up to his last name, to be a Murray. But this team will go as far as number 11 takes him.
Yeah.
That being Tony Perkins. I mean, when he is on and he is scoring the ball, I mean, his mid-range game is the best attribute of his offensive repertoire.
Yeah.
So when he's shooting his mid-range well, this Iowa offense is incredibly difficult to stop.
Absolutely.
Incredibly difficult. When he's not, we are in trouble. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And Tony Perk has a good game, Iowa usually wins. That's just what happens. So looking for Tony Perk to pick things up, or not pick things up, but keep where it is
Yeah.
going into the conference tournaments in March, because he had a rough game against Richmond last year. And remind me how that went.
I'd rather
Yeah,
not.
or don't. That works too. That works too. That works too. But that's one hell of a weekend for the University of Iowa. And
Yeah.
how'd things go for Iowa State? I can't remember.
Yeah. They took L's and L's and more
Yeah,
L's.
their men's team can't win a game right now, kicking players off the team.
Yeah.
Uh,
Taking
Good time to
notes,
be in Iowa
Alabama.
City. Yeah. So, dude, I saw someone that said they said let's go Alabama #parole tide.
Oh no.
That's pretty
Jeez.
good. But anyway, let's not talk about Alabama. Well, let's
We'll
put a
we'll
pin.
save it for
I was
later.
gonna say you know what? Instead of not talking about it, let's just talk about it later. But I'll go ahead. My winner for today's episode, right on cue.
That was
As I'm talking
beautiful.
about my winner,
Beautifully done.
as you can tell from the sweatshirt, one of my winners is going to be the New York Rangers, who just scored a goal in the third period to tie the game against the Flyers.
Go Flyers.
Boo. Boo Flyers. Boo Flyers. Believe it or not, I'm not a Philly fan. I do not like the Flyers.
Check tape.
But in all seriousness, my winner is actually going to be Madison Square Garden. And teams that play in Madison Square Garden. We'll start with the Rangers now. I had already declared them a wagon, and shortly after I did, they lost 4 in a row, but they're back on track. Oh, and they traded for Patrick Kane.
Not bad.
How about that deadline? You bring in Vladimir Tarasenko and Patrick Kane. So now the Rangers' top 3 lines down the stretch and into the playoffs right now is line 1 is Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, and Vladimir Tarasenko. I mean, Kreider and Zibanejad literally carried them to an Eastern Conference Finals last year. Then you add Tarasenko, who we've talked about on this podcast before, how big of a pickup that is. Then you go to the second line, Artemi Panarin, Vincent Trocheck, and Patrick Kane. And then the third line, Alexei Lafreniere, Filipino, and Capo Caco, the kid line. So those top 3 is absolutely ridiculous. And then you end it with Jimmy Vesey, Barclay Goodrow, and Tyler Mott. I mean, that top 3 is one of the best top 3 lines I've ever seen. And yeah, I just it's a big day to be a Ranger fan, man. They weren't playing so well. I know Shesterkin has been letting in a lot of goals, but Help is on the way, and it's showtime on Broadway. Patrick Kane is a New York Ranger, and that's pretty freaking sweet.
Yeah, that's as a mild hockey fan. I mean, Patrick Kane is kind of a staple name in the game of hockey. Obviously,
Especially
uh,
American hockey.
a long time Blackhawk. Saw a lot of Blackhawk fans upset by him leaving, but yeah, huge asset being added to already a supposed wagon in the Rangers.
Yeah, now they're officially they're a bulldozer. That's what
Bulldozer.
they're no longer a wagon. They're officially a
Nice.
bulldozer. The wagon was left at MSG and it was
Yeah.
picked up by the other team playing in MSG. And that's the New York freaking Knicks, man. They are actually on the other TV right now. We have two TVs set up, Rangers, Knicks. They are currently beating the Brooklyn Nets by 21. If this holds over the last 7.5 minutes in the game,
Go Nets.
that that will be their seventh straight win, putting them at 37-27, which is the 5 seed in the East. If they were in the West, they would be the 4 seed. So I don't know, man. I think the East might be better than the West. That's what I'm hearing. Anyway,
Mm,
they are absolutely red hot right now. 10 games over 500. Simply not losing. They are the wagon now. The Rangers are a bulldozer. The Knicks are a wagon. MSG is a party house because it is lit every night in MSG.
there you go. Yeah, Nick's playing well. They're playing bummy Nets, but I mean, I guess that's impressive.
Oh no. Oh no. All right. All right. I will say,
Am I wrong in
oh,
saying the Nets are kind of bummy?
no, you are not wrong. In their 6 game win streak, they have beaten the Pelicans, they have beaten the Celtics, and they're gonna looks like they're gonna beat the Nets for the second time in that 6 game stretch. So not
Not
nec-
bad.
not playing the worst teams. They handled the Celtics at home and handled the Pelicans at home. But yeah, dude, they're playing really well right now. It's amazing. Let me tell you, it's amazing what happens when you get a point guard.
Yeah. D Rose finally getting some run. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because they're kicking the shit out of teams, and D Rose to get it at the end of the game. But Jalen Brunson has been that guy all year. I don't worry, I kept all the receipts that he's over the mid 3, that he's overpaid. Um, I'm not going to
I
go
stand
down.
by it.
I'm not going to go down the RJ Barrett road because this is a happy Knicks conversation. Um, this is a happy Knicks conversation, but Josh Hart and Julius or Josh Hart. See, he's on the screen, so I'm talking about Josh Hart. Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle are playing like one of the better duos in the league, and the addition of Josh Hart fills so many holes: defense, rebounding. He's even shot the ball much better than he had earlier in the season with the Trailblazers. Mitchell Robinson's back and healthy. He's looking like an absolute unit in the paint. They look awesome. I'm incredibly excited.
Really?
Yeah,
Never could guess.
yeah. Believe it or not, I'm enjoying this stretch of basketball and hockey.
There you have it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Sam, who's your loser for today's episode?
Yeah, my loser, we kind of touched on it briefly, and that is Nate Oates, head coach of the Alabama men's basketball team. He's had a lot of L's lately. The fact he still has a job is perplexing to me. Obviously, the big story surrounding Alabama is the investigation into Brandon Miller in a crime a couple weeks ago, I believe. We already touched on his comments made after Brandon Miller was allegedly cleared from the investigation. So I want to talk about his comments on the introduction dance Brandon Miller decided to participate in last weekend's game. He walks out and he basically gets pat down now. Supposedly, he has been doing this since the season started, but come on, read the room. Not the greatest introduction I've ever seen, But Nate Oates obviously got asked about it after a game, and he said, that situation is on me. We addressed as a team, and as soon as I brought it up to him, they immediately understood how it could be interpreted. We all felt awful about it. They explained to me that it's like when TSA checks you before you get on a
Oh
plane,
my god.
and now Brandon's cleared for takeoff.
Uh, I mean, surely you can't be that tone deaf, right?
You'd think,
You'd think
but
you can. And
due to
and
his track record
I
lately,
was gonna
I do
say,
think he is that tone deaf.
and this is even after talking about the situation and doing so, like, I want to use the word again, in an incredibly tone deaf manner and getting ridiculous amount of flag for it.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, like, get it together, man. Like, you cannot talk about this. Someone died.
Yeah.
Like, just you have to be better. And then he goes and continues to, as you said, take L's. It's really shocking the fact that he didn't have more more sensitivity to the issue
Yeah.
after the first instance. So it's really frustrating to see, but I just yeah, I hope that he can either stop talking about it or start talking about it in a much better way.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we're going to be hearing a lot more about Alabama coming up. I mean, next few weekends, as we talked about. I mean, the number one seed in the SEC and have been, have been the best team in the SEC all year, and looking at a top two seed in March Madness. So they're not going to stop being in the limelight. Hopefully, Nate Oates can figure out a way to not be this insensitive.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hopefully. But I truly don't believe that's gonna happen. But one can hope, right?
You'd think. Hopefully. I mean, one can certainly hope, and that's what we are going to do. But my loser for the episode is we are going to go down to Florida and Arizona because my loser is going to be a couple instances in spring training. The first one, a little bit more serious than the other. The pitch clock, Sam. The new
Oh yeah.
pitch clock instituted in the MLB. Well, this spring training is the first trial with the new pitch clock. And here are the rules that the pitcher gets 15 seconds to get ready and throw the pitch when the bases are empty. They get an extra 5 seconds, totaling 20 seconds when there are runners on base. The hitter only gets one timeout per plate appearance, and he must be in the batter's box with 8 seconds left on the pitch clock. If either of those are broken, where a pitch is not thrown in the 15 or 20-second timer, or the batter is not in the batter's box with 8 seconds left on that timer, the pitcher gets an automatic ball or the batter gets an automatic strike, depending on which rule you break. Well, like I said, this was kind of the first trial of this in the majors. They had done so in the minors last year to kind of see how it would work. But they're trying it now with the majors, in the majors, and in the Red Sox Braves game. Now, keep in mind, there is no extra innings in spring training, right? That would be stupid. These games are practice. Well, in this game, there was a literal, like, little league scenario, one that you talk about with your friends,
Yeah.
where a Braves player, oh, by the way, who is fighting for a spot on the team, he is up in the bottom of the ninth in a tie baseball game with the bases loaded in a 3-2 count and 2 outs. Literally a little league scenario that you imagine with your friends. And he is not fully in the box with 8 seconds left. And he gets an automatic strike for strike three, for out three to end the game when the bases were loaded in a tie game.
That's tough.
It doesn't really matter because it's spring training, as I mentioned, but we are not a week into the rule, and it is already literally deciding baseball games.
Yeah. I I don't have a problem with the rule. Honestly, I mean, the problem with Major League Baseball is the time you have to watch a full game, and that speeds up it. So I don't really have a problem. I'm kind of glad they didn't kind of graze over this and just like, oh, he could get a couple more seconds. A rule's a rule, and he broke it. So I don't. It is what it is. Like you said, I think it's obviously a little different if it's a regular season or even a playoff game, but
Sure.
spring game, it kind of sets a standard that this is a legit rule we're gonna enforce this year. So I don't really have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, surely, the more time you spend with it, and as you go through spring training, and actually don't know if they're using it in the World Baseball Classic or not, but as you go through this spring, you'll get used to it, and come the regular season, you'll just be used to it, and it won't affect your day to day in on the baseball field. But I personally wouldn't mind if they institute a rule like maybe bumping it up in the ninth inning or something. Um, but yeah, all I know is that if something doesn't change and like something like this happens in the ninth inning, um, MLB fans will be very upset with the rule, and when the goal of the rule was to increase engagement and lower time, which been very successful in lowering time. I will say, I've seen Mets spring training games this year. They've literally quite I think that every single game has been under 2 hours and 45 minutes, which is the purpose of the rule. But when you also want to garner more engagement through that, and you're just pissing off your fans um, by having games decided because the batter is not in the box with 8 seconds left, that's a big problem. So hopefully everything gets ironed out, and we're not having this conversation in the middle of summer, and this is just growing pains as we get used to the rule and things happening in spring training. But yeah, it's just really not a good look for baseball for that to be happening. Um, but my other loser is on the lighter side. So Keith Hernandez is a announcer for the New York Mets. He was in headlines a lot this offseason because his contract was up with SNY, and he had some negotiations, but he's back. He is announcing games for the New York Mets, and they were playing the Miami Marlins this past weekend. And Miami Marlins have a player named Jazz Chisholm. He's actually the MLB The Show 23 cover athlete. Well, this rather elderly former baseball player has a little trouble with that name, and he called him Chaz Jism on
Tough.
the air over the weekend, and it was an absolutely hilarious moment. And he's actually not the first time he's done that. He actually did that in the regular season a few years ago, calling him Chaz Jism. But it's hysterical and definitely worthy of being the loser.
Yeah, definitely. I saw that clip. I thought it's always a good laugh when player or announcers have a mishap pronouncing names. It's not funny when you just simply don't know their name. That's when it doesn't get funny. Yes, I'm talking to you, Charles Barkley. But yeah, it was hilarious. I thought, and he didn't mean anything by it. He just screwed up.
He just flipped the number,
Yeah, it
flipped the starting
happens.
letters, right? Right, Perkins,
Yeah,
Modi, Moody, Moody,
Moody
Modi,
Muddy.
Moody, Modi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens, but it was very funny and definitely worthy of a loser spot. But we're gonna take a quick commercial break before we hop into the next segment of this episode. So we'll see you on the other side. Have you or your friends ever thought about starting a podcast? Well, we have, and that's the reason we're here today. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it is the easiest way to make a podcast, and it's exactly what we use to make the one you're listening to. Let me explain. Anchor has all the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone, laptop, or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. You know what the best part is, Sam?
What's that?
It is absolutely free.
Hell yeah.
It costs no money to start. And again, that's why we're doing this right now. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Huge shout out to Anchor for sponsoring this episode. Again, if you haven't checked it out, go ahead and check out Anchor. Start a podcast with your buddies. It's a great way to talk about stuff, have fun, and hang out.
Absolutely.
Exactly what we do. But we're going to turn our sights onto the National Basketball Association. I had mentioned that we're going to kind of put the college basketball talk to the side. That is going to be next week episode in preparation of conference tournaments and March Madness. But we are currently in the home stretch of the NBA season with teams having about 20-ish games left on their schedule. We have passed the NBA trade deadline, so teams are pretty much set in stone, maybe a few buyouts here and there, but what you see is for the most part, the team that is going to be going into the playoffs. So the standings in the West right now, we'll start out West. Number 1 are the Nuggets, 2 Grizzlies, 3 Kings, 4 Suns, 5 Warriors, 6 Clippers, 7 Mavericks, 8 Timberwolves, 9 Jazz, and 10 Pelicans are the teams that would make the at least the play in or the playoffs, and the Trailblazers in the 11th spot are just a half a game behind, and the Lakers only 1 game behind. Sam, anything stand out to you in those standings right there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the pretty obvious one is the Kings sitting right now at the 3 spot. I mean, they had the 4th draft pick last year in Keegan Murray. Obviously, big supporters of Keegan Murray here on Crunch Time, former Hawkeye, killing it. But it's it's just a wild. The West is crazy
Insane.
because right now the Pelicans are 13 and a half games behind first place. Like 4 through 10 are within two to 2.5 games of each other, which is absolutely insane. Obviously, the top three kind of have separated themselves a little bit, but 4 through 10 is absolutely ridiculous. But back to the Kings, I don't think anybody really expected them to be the 3rd seed right now. Playing great basketball, De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis, just some playing well as a team right now. But if you would have told me the Kings would be saying at the 3rd seed in the Western Conference in the start of March, I thought you'd be insane.
Yeah, I would have slapped you in the face. I totally would have. Interesting for the Kings. You look at if the season were to end today, which obviously it does not, but they would pull the Clippers in the first round. So, I mean, we
That'd be a
mentioned.
fun
I
series.
was gonna say we mentioned the parity in this Western Conference. I'll do you one better, Sam. Between 4 and 10, you said between 4 and 10 only being 3 games. Between 10 and 13 is only 1.5 games. So that means that between 4 and 13 is 3.5 games. Or
That's
4.5
insane.
games, excuse me. 4.5 games. Insane how bunched together the Western Conference is.
God. Minus the Spurs and Rockets.
Minus the Spurs and Rockets. Yeah.
Jesus, they're
Yeah.
bad.
So the teams not included in that jumble are the Nuggets, who are kind of running away with the 1 seed,
Yeah,
the Grizzlies, who I mean, their splits are absolutely insane right now. They're 26-5 at home
yeah,
and 11-18 on the road.
yeah. That's tough.
That's a little tough, but I mean, when you're the 2 seed, most of your games are going to be home anyway. So
Yeah,
you know, then the Kings. Those are the 3 teams that are not included, and then the Spurs and Rockets. But every other team in the West
yeah.
is in that big jumble mix. And the Rangers just beat the Philadelphia Flyers in overtime. Goal by Vladimir Tarasenko. One of the new pickups. I'm telling you, the bulldozer is in full effect. I believe Patrick Kane plays his first game tomorrow as a Ranger. So yeah, the bulldozer's in full effect. But I mean, looking at this right now, is there any team that you think that you're looking forward to take a few steps up in the rankings? I mean, I know the Suns are getting healthy, so are the Clippers. Like, is there anyone you're looking at, or do you think these are kind of gonna be where the matchups sit?
No, I don't think this is where, because Number 4, the Suns. KD made his debut with them tonight. Um, Kicked the crap out of who'd they play?
They were playing the LaMelo Ball-less
Yeah,
Hornets.
the Hornets. So I think they'll take a couple jumps. Warriors, I think they'll move up. Clippers, I thought Russell Westbrook would be a good asset, but they are like 1-4, something like that. They're not performing well. Um, but the team I expect to kind of make the biggest jump is this Dallas Mavericks team. Obviously, there's going to be some growing pains when you add a guy like Kyrie to match with Luca. But I think they'll eventually figure it out because it seems there's not really a game plan with them too. It's just kind of give the ball to one of them and hope they score, and I don't think that works out. We haven't seen that worked out ever. So that 4 through 7 I could see jumping quite a ways, but the team I'm kind of looking at is that Dallas Mavericks team.
Yeah, I mean, we keep talking about how jumbled this is compared to the Big Ten, where like every night someone wins and the standings are just
Yeah,
completely different. You mentioned the Mavericks; they like the growing pains that you mentioned. That's something they're currently going through. I think they're a similar story to the Clippers, where like
yeah.
over their last few games they haven't been playing so well, but they'll figure it out. Two of the best guards in the league. And a quick update on Kevin Durant, the newest duo in the NBA. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. How many points do you think they combined for
I
today?
hope 12, but I'm gonna go like 78.
It is somewhere between that. They combined for 60. They
Weak.
combined for 60 minutes and 60 points.
It's
Devin
not
Booker
bad.
had 37.
Yeah.
KD with 23.
KD wash.
KD washed. Damn, DeAndre Ayton had 16 rebounds, but the Suns took care of business, beat the Hornets by 14 on the road. But yeah, dude, the Western Conference has a lot of room to change. Um, but before I move out east, Sam, I gotta know right now, if you were a betting man, who are you putting your money on to win the Western Conference?
That's a good question. Hmm. I think I think I'm going with the Grizzlies.
The Grizzlies.
Yeah.
You think Ja's able to back up his
I
talk?
think I think Ja I think they have a good starting lineup, but the thing that everyone talks about in the playoffs is depth, and I think they kind of have the best depth of the top 4 teams. I think the Warriors can compete with them when it comes to depth, but I think they have a better depth situation than the Nuggets. And then obviously the Kings, and then Suns trade their depth. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Yeah, I think the Grizzlies have a good shot at it.
Sam going with the Grizzlies. I tell you what, I'm gonna go with a little bit less of a. This is how messed up the NBA is right now. I was about to say that I'm gonna take a little bit less of a dark horse when I'm gonna take a team who is double the Grizzlies in the standings. The Grizzlies are 2. I'm going to take the current 4 seed. I am going to go with the Suns. I just think when you can have Devin Booker and you can have Kevin Durant on the same team with veteran point guard like Chris Paul, a facilitator, a good big man like DeAndre Ayton. Yes, they are lacking in the depth, category, but they brought back T.J. Warren again, an NBA veteran. Certainly not bubble T.J. Warren, but I feel like T.J. Warren was best in the bubble. You partner him with the Suns, who are also really good in the bubble. I feel like that's a match made in heaven, right? The bubble connection,
Yeah, there you go.
the bubble connection, and they also went and signed Terrence Ross from the Heat when he got or not the Heat, the Magic when he got bought out. So, I think they did some things to address that depth where it might not be as bad as some people think it is. Certainly not great, but when you have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, I'm not sure that matters. And I'm not sure there is a better starting lineup in the NBA right now than what the Suns have. So I think I would put my money on the Suns. We're going to move out east. Ready to go out east, Sam?
I'm ready.
The current standings are the Bucks are the 1 seed, Celtics 2, 3 76ers, 4 Cavaliers, 5 Knicks, 6 Nets, 7 Heat, 8 Hawks, 9 Raptors, and 10 Wizards, with Bulls on the outside looking in by 1.5 games. So, Sam, I'm gonna have to start out with the same question. Looking at those standings, does anything stand out to you?
Um, Honestly, not really. Um, I'm a little surprised the Nets are playing as well as they are, but I mean, they just got smoked by the Knicks. But I mean, Cam Thomas, McCall Bridges, Cam Johnson they're playing well as a team, so that's kind of shocking. The Heat are confusing. The Hawks are confusing as why they're 7-8 right now. I think they are some solid teams, but the Nets being a 6 seed and like in the playoffs and not at least playing is rather shocking to me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think that the Nets overnight turned from just a team that everyone loves to hate to a very fun team.
Yeah.
They're fun to watch, and if they do anything in the postseason, there'll be a team that a lot of fans whose teams are not in the postseason will hitch their wagon to, just because they're
Yeah.
fun. They don't have the superstars anymore. You mentioned those young guys, your Mikal Bridges, your Cam Thomas, your Cam Johnson. They're fun. They're just good basketball players, and they play an unselfish, good style of basketball.
Yeah.
For me, you mentioned the one I was gonna say. Why the hell are the Heat this bad?
Yeah.
I know Kyle Lowry's been hurt a lot, but oh my gosh, this team is way too talented
Yeah.
to be playing in that seven spot. I mean, 2 years ago or 3 years ago in the bubble, they made it to the finals.
Yeah.
Then last year was literally the number one seed in the East and was one shot, Jimmy Butler, one pull up three away from going to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
And they're playing in the seven line right now. I don't get it. They are
And
they're way too talented. They have a great head coach. They're deep. Like
and it's not like they've lost anybody either. They still have the same core group of guys. Obviously, Kyle Lowry, but still have Jimmy Butler, still have Tyler Hero, still
Bam
have
Adebayo,
Bam. It,
Max Struess.
it just doesn't. I mean, Duncan Robinson, but he's kind of been trashed for the past couple of years.
Dude, he's getting like paid $22
I
million
know
dollars a year
it's
to
ridiculous.
not play. But yeah, the Heat, I don't really understand them. They're definitely a team that I don't want to
Yeah,
play in the postseason because of all that talent that we talked about. Um, but yeah, when looking at this, not too terribly surprising, except for the Heat, in my opinion. Uh, Also, the Cavaliers. I mean, I think a lot of us thought they would be obviously much better with Donovan Mitchell, and they were very fun last year, but they are really good. Like they're sitting in that four line, only behind Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly. But
uh,
a little bit of less parity in this on this side of things. I mean, between the 5 and the 10, you have 6 games of separation, which is a decent amount. It's 5 teams, 6 games of separation, so not too bad. Certainly nowhere near as bad as it is in over in the West. But Sam, you're betting on someone. Who from the East are you betting on?
I'm gonna give it up to chalk answer, and that's the Bucks. I mean, they are playing phenomenal right now. Won their past 15 games, and that's without Chris Middleton. Giannis is the best player in the NBA right now. It's not even close. He's been killing it all season. Um, yeah, I mean Giannis, they're just hot as hell. I mean, 26-5 at home, 18-12 away. Like I said, 15-game win streak. Just absolutely dominating the NBA right now.
Yeah, they're they're playing pretty damn well. And you mentioned the thing we're looking at when you can lock down the number one seed, you're going to have home court advantage in every game until the finals. And Bucks are 26-5 at home, absolutely dominant in Milwaukee. I'm going to be different just to be different, but I'm also going to take the chalky answer.
Yeah.
The defending Eastern Conference champions, the Celtics.
Yeah.
Um, we talked about the depth that the Grizzlies have, the depth that the Warriors have. Celtics are right there with
Yeah.
everybody. Of course, you have that two-headed monster of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but then you've got average Al Horford. Average Al Horford, who tends not to be average when he plays in a Celtics uniform.
Yeah.
Um, you've got Derek White, who was a massive piece for them in the
Yeah.
postseason. Robert Williams, will he be healthy?
Marcus Smart.
Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year last year. I mean, they have depth for days. And Grant Williams is one of those pesky players. Like
Hmm.
they got a lot of players who can contribute on an NBA basketball court. So I'm gonna go with Boston. I tell you, one of the things that you had said, they won 15 in a row with the Bucks. That is, have won 15 in a row without Chris Middleton. Very impressive. It's just that last phrase, without Chris Middleton, is becoming sort of a commonality at this
Yeah.
point. He wasn't there for their postseason push last year, um, and hasn't played in the last
Yeah.
month or so for Milwaukee. So that's definitely a little bit of concern. I will say Boston is dealing with injury concerns himself. I know Jaylen Brown has missed a few games.
Yeah.
He missed the game in which the Knicks kind of handled business against the Celtics earlier this
Yeah.
week. But so you have Grizzlies Bucks. Who's winning the finals in this Sam
In this
betting world?
scenario, I got the Bucks, man. Who is stopping Giannis on the
J3
no.
not quick enough.
Nope. Desmond Bane's too small. Steven Adams too
Dylan Brooks
slow.
too small. Steve
Dylan
Brooks.
Brooks.
Yeah.
Ja's got
Ja.
it.
Yeah. Ja.
Trey Jones.
Yeah. That would be a matchup nightmare for literally anybody in the
Yeah.
NBA. But in my scenario, I've got the Celtics and the Suns. That is a good series. I think in that matchup, I think I would lean Boston. They each have an elite two-headed monster to lead their offensive attack, but I'm gonna go with the depth. I just rattled off all those names in the Eastern Conference, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna go on the side of depth, and yeah. So I've got the Celtics. Sam's got the Bucks. Again, not incredibly exciting picks
Yeah.
from us, but a little bit of insight into where things currently stand in the NBA as we get down to the last playoff push. Sam, before we end this episode, I have one more question for you.
What's that?
Hot topic right now. Do we see a three-peat in the MVP conversation with Nikola Jokic winning his third in a row?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're having this discussion, to be honest. He's the best player right now. He's averaging is near triple double, if not a triple double. I don't know the exact stats, but it's kind of one of those things. Yeah, it might get a little chalky at some points, but you gotta give it to the best player, and Nikola Jokic is that guy.
Yeah, he's currently averaging 24.6 points per game, 11.7 rebounds per game, and 10 assists per game. So
Not
that
bad.
is, in fact, a triple double. Breaking news: that is a triple double. Guess what he's shooting from the field?
57.
63%
Oh shit! Yep,
from the field.
dude, just give it to him now.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Incredible, 40% from three. Incredible efficiency all over the place. Affects the game. And while I personally think calling someone who gets a lot of triple doubles a stat pattern is incredibly weak.
yeah.
It happened a lot, obviously, with Russell Westbrook, and it's now happening again with Nikola Jokic because, well, Sam, how do you win basketball games? You score points, you get
Score.
rebounds. Guess what those are? Stats,
Yeah.
right? Those are stats.
I've never understood why that being a stat pattern's a negative has a
Yeah.
negative.
You do
connotation
if you
to
are a
it.
stat patter, you do good things for your team and therefore win basketball games. But uh, this idea of stat padding, specifically in this Jokic scenario, um, Nikola Jokic has dropped 23 triple doubles this season.
Not bad.
Guess what the Nuggets' record is in those games?
23-0.
The Denver Nuggets are 23-0
Oh my
this
god.
year when Nikola Jokic drops a triple double. And if there is any indication that this notion of stat padding is ridiculous, dumb, has no merit whatsoever, is that stat right there. Because again, you need to record stats to win basketball games. That's
Yeah,
just how it works. So
that's crazy.
both of us are on the same page. Nikola Jokic should, and I think he will be a three-peat
Yeah.
MVP champion. But I just wanted to put that to bed right now. Nikola Jokic is not a stat padder. His team literally has not lost a game this year in which he scores a triple double.
That's insane.
Absolutely
I
insane.
knew it was good. I didn't know it was that good.
Yeah, it's that good. It is that good. He's like he's only shooting 15 times per game with that level of
What?
efficiency. Like I just can't wrap my head around the stats, the efficiency, the way he affects the game. Oh, and yeah, and his team's number one in the conference and running away with it. So Nikola Jokic, not much more I can say other than everything we've just said.
Yeah.
But any last thoughts on on the way on the way the NBA is looking right now before we get into this final push, Sam?
Nah, man. No, not really. It's I want to know if the Lakers are tanking for Victor Wembanyama,
Seems like it.
because obviously LeBron is out for a while. They pulled AD from playing tonight, so like, dude, if Victor and LeBron team up, that's gonna be so unfair.
Yeah, it will. It will. And of course, as you're talking about the tank for Wemby, the Lakers are currently I think the third worst team in the West.
Yeah.
LeBron has sprained ankle, fractured ankle. I think it's just a sprain.
I think
But
it's a sprain, but they're saying it could be worse.
yeah, it could be like a 2 week
Yeah,
a
could be
2 week
bad.
sideline for LeBron. And of course, if there's the way the media treats the Lakers. Well, something I believe I heard it on Pardon My Take, where Zach Lowe, the NBA,
Yeah,
um, he got a call on his day off from ESPN asking him to call in to
yeah.
their NBA show
Okay.
because ESPN wanted someone. They wanted someone with a differing opinion because this was after the Lakers had beaten the Mavericks. I believe that was
Yeah,
on Saturday.
I believe
Um,
so.
on Saturday, they came back and beat the Mavericks. Everyone on ESPN was saying that the Lakers were the team to beat in the West, and
Yeah.
they needed someone to get on the air
Yeah.
just with a differing opinion that the Lakers were in fact not the team to beat in the West.
Yeah.
I saw a headline on ESPN. The question was, who will go farther in the playoffs, the Mavericks or the Lakers? Um, I'm gonna read the NBA standings again. The Mavericks currently sit in the 7th seed. The Lakers they're the 12th seed, so the fourth worst team in the West. They need to jump up. They need to jump 2 teams in order to make the playoffs with LeBron on the sideline for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
One of them is currently not in the play-in, and I believe at the time they were talking about it, the Mavericks were also in the 6th seed. They had not
Yeah.
fallen to the 7th seed yet. So one team was literally in the playoffs, one team wasn't even in the play-in, and they were having a conversation about which of those 2 teams will make it farther in the playoffs.
Makes sense.
Makes complete and total sense, man. NBA media never fails to deliver. But that was kind of our almost like a status report of the way things are looking in the NBA. Not too much in-depth analysis, as we mentioned that things will change a lot. A lot of teams are getting healthy. A lot of teams are
Yeah.
still developing after their roster was overhauled at the trade deadline because it was a very active trade deadline. And we will definitely revisit the NBA as things continue to push towards that playoffs. And as we get into the playoffs, definitely talk more about how things are shaking out. But we wanted to give a little status report as we sit and wait for things to get down to the stretch. But that's going to do it for episode 84. Congratulations, you have made it to the end. You can follow the show on social media at crunchtime_pod on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. You can follow Sam at,
Yeah, on Instagram at Sam_Godsey21 and on Twitter at SamGodsey29.
and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at tdislin22. As always, a reminder, I think Sam posted on his personal, on the Crunch Time accounts too. We are always wanting to hear from you guys. Questions, concerns, comments, what you think about some of the stuff we said. Who do you think is going to win the finals? Who would you put your money on to win the East, the West, and the finals? We always, always, always want to hear from you. But the clock has run out on this episode, and we'll see you in the next one on Crunch Time.